post-retirement, you tell this story of a captain who paid off his boat and got a high tax bill. And Chris, the story has broke my heart.
Yeah.
You advised him to pay it off over 4 years to avoid taxes.
Yep.
So he didn't, and he got the huge ass tax bill.
Yep.
My question is this. Why is the system, meaning like the money withdrawn, considered income?
Well, it all ends up in an IRA. Like I said, the drop money, the 457 money ends up in an IRA. And again, it's education. I mean, I think many times my job as a financial advisor is not so much how to invest people's money, but it's to keep them from doing stupid stuff.
Yeah,
and
how to spend that money. But like, why is even like, isn't it better to pay it off all at once? Why is the system set up to encourage payments over time? Like, if you have the money to pay for it up front, why are you penalized for that? That's very bizarre to me.
Yeah, well, what we try to do is it all comes down to your taxable income. So, I mean, everybody likes to make more taxable income, but what you don't want to see, and any CPA will tell you, you don't want to see a big spike here and then it come down. And so in his particular case, I kept telling him, don't pay it off, don't pay it off, don't pay it off in one lump sum. You have to structure it that you take 20 grand a year out over 5 years to make it look like you're only making an extra 20 grand a year. I'm like, if you take out 100 grand, it's going to make you look on top of your pension like you made $200,000, which jacks you up into the next tax bracket. And in his case, it did. And he paid a severe, not a penalty, but he paid a tremendous amount in taxes. And so he should have had a CPA. He did his own taxes, and he should have listened to us about not taking out gigantic sums of money. I mean, you can don't get me wrong, you can take money out of your IRA. It's your money inside your IRA, but you need to strategically take it out so that you're not causing these huge spikes in income, which then jacks you into another bracket. So
that makes sense. Yeah, it's just if you're gonna have the money, sometimes you got to be a little hush hush about it.
Right. Yeah, you have to have a strategy to pay it off. And I've seen, we had one officer literally buy a farm, and I said, you're going to get crushed. But we broke it up over 2 separate years, that he took the money out and he ended up buying the farm and he ended up paying the taxes on it. But for the most part, the ones that, come up with a strategy, for example, one of the other questions I get is, hey, I'm going to retire and I want to pay off my house. My first question is, well, what's your mortgage rate? And everybody answers the same thing. Oh, I owe 100 grand. I'm like, no. I don't care how much you own. What is your rate? Oh, I refinanced 2 years ago. My rate's 2.75%. I'm like, you are never paying that off because you will never see a mortgage rate at 2.75%. So even if you're retired, that's the cheapest money you could possibly have. Now, eventually you might pay it off because at the end of the loan, it's going to be mostly principal and very little interest. But, to pay off a mortgage early is a bad idea, especially if you have an extremely attractive rate, because you're never going to see a rate like that again.
It's just so bizarre to me, right? It goes against conventional wisdom. I have money to afford something, but don't pay for it.
Right.
Exactly. I already bought it. I have the money to pay for something I already bought, but don't do it.
Right. You just have to be smart about it.
It's weird. It's so weird.
There's good debt and bad debt. And like, if you have good debt at 2.75% on a property that's appreciating, that's great, because I can turn around and take your $100,000 and make you 5-6% little or no risk. So why not create that arbitrage where you're making more with the money you already have versus paying off the debt, which is at a very low rate.
Right.
So.
Well, it's the same thing with like annual fees. Look, I understand commission, right? You're doing a job, you're doing a service. You need to be paid off the money you make for them. That's
right.
That's just quid pro quo. That makes sense. But annual fees, you're punishing me for making money.
Yeah, well, the way we operate at our shop is we're a registered investment advisor. So, for example, if somebody rolls over 457, drop account to it, it's a $100,000 account. We charge 1.25%. So that's $1,250. We bill it quarterly. It's not $1,250 each quarter. It's about $300. And what's good about doing that is that we are really engaged. I had a famous banker tell me one time, he's like, you want to take a little piece of the business as it goes by. Don't charge them a lot up front. Don't penalize them if they leave. But we are very cognizant, because I'm trying to get that $100,000 account to $200,000 to $500,000 to $1 million. At $1 million, we drop down to 1%. But again, all the transactions inside that account, you don't pay any transaction charges. You buy a mutual fund, you buy a stock, buy a bond, CD, buy or sell. Nobody pays transaction charges anymore. You may pay a tiny little platform fee. Some mutual funds charge a $5 or $10 platform fee for the custodian. But all in all, the main reason why you want to be charged a management fee is because that person that's managing your money is trying to make your money grow. I have people come to me all the time and they're like, my guy hasn't called me for 2 or 3 years. I invested $100,000 with him 3 years ago. I'm like, oh, and I look at what they invested in and it was, basically what they call front sales charge mutual funds. I'm like, well, did you give the guy any other money? No, I haven't given him any money. I'm like, well, he made his commission up front. He's not really interested in talking to you unless you give him some more money. So the industry has really gone to a management fee, which I think is good, because obviously everybody's got skin in the game that way.
Right. Well, that makes sense, right? It's a service, right? If it is just kind of just looking at it, writing a report, I'm here if you need me. I have a financial advisor through Ameriprise, which is my investments are for, right? I talk to him maybe once a year around tax season to see where I'm at, if I want to make a move, or I'm keep an eye on it. That fee is deserved because he's actually, doing something.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. All right, Chris. The last thing, the journey of the 3 officers. You got Officer Long Term, Detective Doubter, and Chief Procrastinator. I bet you came up with those all by yourself.
Oh gosh, and like I said, I got to be careful not to put names with them, but
well, of course, right.
You can't. I've seen these officers over and over in my career, and that's why we came up. But Officer Long Term, young guy. May not be super financially astute, but he knows he needs to save money. He gets right in as a police officer, puts money in his 457 plan, tries to put as much as he can, doesn't over leverage, buy too big a house or a car, gets married. He understands that there's an end game here is what he ends up doing. And he's preparing them. And hopefully by us writing our book and getting it out to younger police officers, they realize I need a strategic plan early on in my career. Detective Doubter is that guy 10, 12 years from retirement. He's kind of been through the mill a little bit. He may or may not be a little sour on his profession, but he really hasn't saved enough money. But again, he's got too big a house with a mortgage. He needs a job where he's making $140,000 a year. Again, we're trying to get these people, and we use examples in our book. We've run spreadsheets through them showing just by doing this, here's how much money you're going to have at the end. And it's never too late to start. And that's, police chief procrastinator. I get police chiefs, they've been making a lot of money throughout their entire career. And all of a sudden their career is starting to wind down and they're like, whoa, I need to do something. I got 4 years for retirement. And so again, if they get a strategy, focus on their 457 plan, get their debt under control, they can get to the end game is what they can end up doing. Because unfortunately, this is the only job I know where you can leave your house in the morning, kiss your wife and kids goodbye. You may not come home, or you may not, have a job, at the end of the day. So, they deal with a lot of risk, and they'll tell you 98% of my job as a police officer is pure boredom, followed by 2% of sheer terror. And again, the reason why we wrote this book and we're doing a podcast like this is we're hoping, that if we can help one police officer have a better retirement, we'll feel fulfilled.